You've poured your heart and soul into your show, crafting audio gold week after week. But let's face it, your mom and that only one loyal fan that you have can only carry your show so far. It's time to break out of your echo chamber and tap into the vast ocean of potential listeners. How, you ask? By shamelessly piggybacking on other podcasters' success, of course. Okay, we'll call it collaborating to keep things classy. In this video, we'll dive into the art of podcast cross-pollination, revealing how guest appearances and cross-promotions can skyrocket your audience faster than you can say, don't forget to rate and review. It's all about riding the coattails of success in a good way. You know that feeling when you're the new kid at school and you befriend that popular crowd? That's essentially what you're doing when you appear on other podcasts. It's like hitching a ride on the cool kids' metaphorical podcast bus. Suddenly, you're exposed to a whole new audience who, hey, might just think this person isn't half bad. Maybe I'll go check them out and see if their show is worth adding to my podcast playlists. Now, there's an art to podcast cross-pollination. Think of guest appearances as the bee's knees of podcasting, and the pun is totally intended. You're fitting from podcast to podcast, spreading your audio pollen, helping your show grow. It's a win-win situation. You get to tap into a new listener base and a bunch of others, and the host gets fresh content. Before you know it, you'll be Googling how to grow my podcast on Spotify because you can't keep up with the new influx of listeners. Remember, in the world of podcasting, it's not just about what you know. It's about who you know and who knows you. So go and be a guest, my friend. Your podcast audience growth truly depends on it. Now let's touch on how guest appearances can actually grow your podcast audience. When you grace another podcast with your awesome tones and your great expertise, you're essentially hijacking their audience. It's like sneaking into a party where you don't know anyone, except you're actually invited and you won't get thrown out. This exposure can help grow your podcast audience on Spotify and beyond without resorting to bribing your mom to listen. It's all about the I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine principle. Cross promotions are the ultimate win-win. You get to strut your stuff on someone else's show, and in return, you let them dazzle your listeners. It's like trading baseball cards, but instead of swapping cardboard, you're swapping audience. And this method is ensured to grow your podcast faster than you would do organically by yourself. Now, guest appearances aren't just about growing your podcast, they're your ticket to becoming the next big thing in the entrepreneurial circles. By showcasing your expertise on other shows, you're building your personal brand faster than you can say influencer. Before you know it, you'll be the go-to guru in your niche, and your podcast not growing will be a distant memory. Now, let me give you my 5 killer steps to land awesome podcast appearances on other people's shows. Because let's face it, if you're thinking my podcast is not growing, it's time to get your charming mug on someone else's show and start showcasing your brand in your face and your business. FYI, if this content is really opening your eyes, get into my exclusive Legacy Builders group where I give you my free weekly personal branding playbooks to entrepreneurs and sweets just like yourself. I've linked it below, click there, and I'll see you inside. Anyways, let's get back into things. Number 1, stalk or research your targets. First things first, time to channel your inner detective. Scope out podcasts in your niche like hawk eyeing its prey. Listen, take notes, and for Pete's sake, do not be the guest who has clearly not done their homework. Number 2, craft a pitch that doesn't suck. Now put on your salesperson hat, preferably not a fedora. Craft a pitch that's snappier than a crocodile's jaws. Highlight why you're a good guest that they needed to have on their show, even though they know they didn't initially. Pro tip, I want to grow my podcast on Spotify isn't exactly a compelling reason for them to have you on. Number 3, network like a boss, but be way less obnoxious. Time to schmooze, keep it classy at the same time. Attend podcast conferences, join online communities, and engage genuinely. Remember, you're building relationships. You're not collecting business cards like Pokemon. Number 4, bring your A game. Once you've landed your spot, don't mail it in. Prepare like it's the interview of your life. Bring value, share stories, and for the love of all things audio, check your mic setup. Nothing says amateur hour like sounding like you're broadcasting from inside a tin can. Number 5, reciprocate, you ungrateful human. Finally, don't ghost your host right after they post the show. Share a review, share it on your social medias, and consider returning the favor and have them on their show. Because in the world of podcasting, what goes around comes around, and that's how you grow your audience like a pro. I've had times where I've had awesome guests come on my show and then they're so energized, they're giving such great feedback. The second the show goes live, you don't hear from them. They don't share. And I've had this personally time and time again, and that does not leave a good taste in your mouth, I promise you, because that's exactly how I was as a host when my guests ghosted me. Now, remember when your teacher made you hold hands with a classmate on a field trip? This is what cross-promotion is like, but without the sweaty palms. By teaming up with other podcasters, you're essentially piggybacking on each other's audiences. It's like having a friend vouch for you at a party, except the entire party is the internet. So if you're wondering how to grow your podcast on Spotify or any other platform, this is your golden ticket. Cross-promotion isn't just shouting about listen to my podcast into the void. It's a delicate dance of give and take, offered to mention their show on yours, and in return they'll do a nice favor for you, giving it back. So don't be shy, reach out and make some audio allies. Your audience and podcast growth depends on it, and I promise you, most hosts are way friendlier than you think they are. Now you can also build your personal brand through podcast collaborations. It's an awesome two birds, one stone. What better way to say you know your stuff by playing nice with other podcasters in the big shows? It's like networking without this awkward small talk and the stale hors d'oeuvres. There's what we call a domino effect of collaboration. Here's a mind bender. By helping others grow their podcast audience, you're actually helping yourself. It's like a weird kind of karma thing, but with microphones. So be generous with your wit and your wisdom, and before you know it, you'll be the podcast equivalent of a social butterfly. So there you have it. The secret sauce to skyrocketing your listener base is way less about shouting into the void and more about cozying up to your fellow audio aficionados. Who knew that playing nice in the sandbox could lead to such explosive growth? Now go forth and mingle, you social butterfly you. I'm telling you. Swap those mics, trade those audiences, and watch your download numbers soar faster than a caffeinated squirrel on a trampoline. Just remember, when you're basking in the glow of your newfound fame, don't forget us little people who helped you get there. We'll be expecting VIP tickets to your inevitable TED Talk. I'll see you next time.